Kristin Riott is a businesswoman and writer who worked for Hallmark Cards for over 20 years, including several years as creative director for writers and editors. In 2000, Kristin and her family moved to Hong Kong. There they witnessed the rapid environmental degradation taking place in Asia. Upon return to Kansas City, Kristin became active in a number of area environmental groups, including True Blue Women, Think Twice, and the Environmental Committee for the City of Prairie Village. Earlier this year, Kristin went to Nashville to train with Al Gore as a spokesperson for global warming, one of 1,000 volunteers from around the world to do so. Kristin, come on.
I can't help making a little correction. I'm Kristin Riott, and it's like Marriott, but without the money. I'm so glad and so proud to be here with all of you, and from all 9 of the Kansas City area trainees with the Climate Project, I want to say greetings from Al Gore. First thing that he would want to say is a big hearty thank you to the many of you who've been working on environmental issues far longer than I have, and a couple of them are sitting right next to me in the front row, and they'll be here to talk to us in a minute. I know that you all have probably memorized An Inconvenient Truth, so I'm not going to bother you with any of that, but I did want to share with you a few things that struck me at the training for 3 days in Nashville, and that made me think of the environmental issues that we're facing as not only the moral problem that it's been called, and the economic problem that it's been called, and the physical problem that it's been called. It's a problem, it's an emotional problem, and it's a psychological problem for people to grasp. And one of the facts that we were presented with is that over 2/3 of all people now believe that global warming is actually happening and that it is caused by human beings. But only 13% of those are actually prompted to act, and I think they're all here in this room. So again, 2/3 believe, only 13% actually act. And Gord quoted the poet T.S. Eliot, who said, "Between the thought and the deed lies a shadow." Well, I think there are lots of reasons for that shadow, but one of the ones that I'm most interested in is the sheer force of habit. I'm very interested in the brain, and I'm interested in the psychology of change. And it's just a fact that acting as we already know how to act and tootling down through those well-worn grooves in our own little brains is far more efficient than making change. And we need to understand how difficult it is for people. And that it is really in any change that you care to make, whether it be no longer taking the plastic bags in the grocery store and remembering to carry that darn cloth bag in from your car. Every time you do that, it's like learning a new language. And if you are a student of language, you know that it can take you up to 17 exposures to learn a new word. So be patient with yourself, be patient with the people around you, and one of the keys is reward yourself for small incremental goals that you've achieved. You'll get there faster. Personally, I'm in the peanut M&Ms every 10 minutes. I want to also add a couple of other important points that were made. The second one is people don't like to be alone. They don't want to feel like they're the only person that holds an opinion. And I'll bet that the people in this audience could describe a long and lonely walk to the desert to get to this day. People who have known about environmental issues for years when other people did not know. So we've got to dispel this loneliness. And I think it's the perfect time to do that because so many people are just dawning in their awareness of the reality of climate change. And it's time for us who have known to reach deep into our communities and get people who don't know anything about it but might be open-minded enough to learn. And hold them to us and bring them forward and be as patient with them as Al Gore was with us, his trainees. And I want to mention that a great place to start is your own neighborhood, because much of what we have to do has to stop climate change, has to do with making our own houses more efficient and using more efficient transportation. And who better than your own neighbors to make those changes with? So invite them over, have a party, make it fun. Nobody wants it to be depressing, and we need them all, no matter who they voted for. Finally, we need reminders, and there was some research done of this. If there's a Post-it note next to a light switch that says, please turn off the lights before you leave the room, the likelihood is 50% greater that those lights will be turned off. People need continual reminders of the changes that they need to make. And those reminders need to be kind and gentle reminders, which brings me to my last point. I don't know that I've ever met as gracious and civilized and humble a man as Al Gore. And I would like to say that personally he inspired me not only with the content of An Inconvenient Truth and all the science that we learned in those 3 days, but in his utter respect for every human being, no matter how ignorant they might be of the facts. If you all saw him testify recently at the congressional hearings, you know that when I think it was Daniel Inouye, is that how I say that, who was in opposition. I was actually out of the country when this was happening, but he reached out to this man who was in stark opposition to him and said, you know, we have a mutual friend, and I think it'd be great if we just had breakfast together and we took some time to talk over these things. So, don't we have enough evidence, folks, by now, that contempt for other people, sarcasm, and this kind of communication doesn't really have a place in the work we have to do? We need everybody on board. And that's what I'm working on, because it's one of the biggest challenges for human beings to do that. I want to close with 3 words from Winston Churchill. Never give up. Never give up. Never give up. Thank you.